You know the phrase, born again? It's everywhere. For a lot of people, it's this deeply spiritual, personal idea. But what if I told you the original meaning was something, well, a lot more physical, something you could literally see and smell? Today, we're going to uncover a forgotten meaning of this famous phrase, and it's not hidden in some complex theology, but in the blood and oil of an ancient temple ritual. Let's get into it.
So our whole mystery kicks off with this late-night chat between Jesus and a guy named Nicodemus, who was like a top-tier religious scholar. Jesus tells him, "You must be born again," and Nicodemus is just completely thrown. He doesn't get it. But here's the fascinating part. Jesus is genuinely surprised that he's confused. He asks him, "Are you the teacher of Israel and you don't know this?" That little comment tells us everything. The answer wasn't some brand new idea. It was something Nicodemus was supposed to already know. So where was he supposed to have learned it?
Right. See, Jesus wasn't pointing forward to Christian ideas that wouldn't be written down for decades. No, he was pointing backward, back to the very scriptures and rituals Nicodemus had spent his entire life studying. The answer was hiding in plain sight, woven right into the fabric of temple worship. And to find it, that's exactly where we have to go.
Okay, so our investigation starts with one very important object, the temple veil. And trust me, this was not just some fancy curtain. It was a key piece of evidence, almost like a physical record of the entire nation's spiritual life.
So what exactly was this veil? Well, imagine this massive, heavy, ornate curtain hanging in the temple. On one side, you have the holy place, where priests did their daily work. But on the other side, that was the most holy place, the symbolic spot where God's presence dwelled on earth. The veil was the boundary line between the human and the divine.
But here's the thing you have to picture. This veil was not clean, not even close. All year long, every single time a sin offering was made, the priest would sprinkle blood on it. When someone with leprosy was cleansed, they'd sprinkle oil on it. So as the year went on, it just got more and more stained, greasy, and heavy, a literal visible scorecard of all the confessed sins of the people.
And we're not talking about just a little flick of blood here and there. For every sacrifice, the law said the blood had to be sprinkled on the veil 7 times. 7! In the Bible, that's the number for completion, for perfection. Just imagine that. Day after day, week after week, that curtain was absolutely saturated with the evidence of sin and atonement.
Now, this physical object had an incredible spiritual meaning. The book of Hebrews in the New Testament makes this really direct connection. It says that the veil symbolized the body, the actual flesh of Christ. Think about that. Those stains of sin, that blood and oil, symbolically they weren't just on a curtain, they were on him.
All right, that's clue number 1, the veil. Now for our second clue. We're going to shift from the object itself to the incredibly dramatic ritual that happened only once a year, on the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur.
This was without a doubt the most serious, high-stakes day of the entire year. Only one person, the high priest, was allowed to go past that veil and into the very presence of God. And he could only do it on this one day. I mean, the fate of the entire nation was basically on his shoulders.
The whole journey had these very specific steps. He had to go in behind a thick cloud of incense so he wouldn't be struck dead by the sight of God's glory. He'd make atonement for his own sins and for all the people's sins. But then came the most important physical act. To get back out, he couldn't just stroll through. He had to get down on his knees and crawl on the ground, passing under the filthy, blood-soaked bottom of the veil.
I mean, just picture the symbolism of that, the posture of absolute humility. The veil was attached at the top and the side, so the only way through was to get low, to crawl. It's a literal physical demonstration of the idea that every knee would bow before God.
Okay, so we have our clues, right? We have a veil caked in blood and oil that represents Christ's body. And we have a high priest who has to crawl underneath it once a year. Now, let's put it all together. This is the revelation.
I want you to really try to see this in your mind's eye. He's just crawled on the stone floor, pushing his way under a curtain that is heavy with a year's worth of dried blood and greasy oil, all while surrounded by this thick, pungent cloud of incense. When he finally emerges on the other side, back into the holy place where the other priests are waiting, what does he look like? What does he smell like?
He emerges, covered in blood. He's greasy with oil. The air all around him is thick with this intense, organic smell from the incense and the offerings. He's just passed through a narrow way on his hands and knees. The parallel is it's shocking, it's unmistakable. He looks for all the world like a newborn child emerging from the womb.
This is what Jesus was talking about. This was the new birth. It wasn't just a metaphor. It was a physical, sensory, real ritual that the high priest went through every single year. It was a known part of temple tradition, something any master teacher in Israel, someone exactly like Nicodemus, should have been completely familiar with.
And this wasn't just some weird one-off idea either. This theme of rebirth, of getting a new start, it actually echoes in a bunch of other places in the Old Testament. It sort of reinforces the whole concept, showing that this was a familiar pattern to people back then.
For instance, you've got Naaman the Syrian. He has leprosy, dips in the river 7 times, and his skin becomes like the flesh of a little child. Total reset. Or look at the strange birth story of Tamar's twins, which is packed with symbolism about death and resurrection. And then there's the ritual for cleansing a leper. A live bird is dipped in the blood of another bird that was sacrificed, and then it's set free. It's this powerful picture of new life coming directly out of death. It's the same theme, over and over. So, after all this, we're left with a totally different picture. We see born again not just as a spiritual feeling, but as something grounded in a physical, humbling, and frankly messy ritual of atonement. It suggests a new life isn't just about wiping the slate clean, but it's something that comes directly through the mess of what came before. And that leaves us with a pretty big question. How does remembering this ancient physical picture of rebirth change how we think about what it really means to start a new life today?